talk a little bit about yarn weight, and in another video I want to talk about yarn content. And once you have a pretty good grasp of those two things, you can confidently exchange yarns and patterns. Most patterns will show a recommended yarn, and you don't have to use that yarn for that pattern. And it's really pretty easy once you understand a couple of concepts to make those exchanges and be successful. So, as I said, today we're going to talk about yarn weight, and that is really how thick or thin the yarn is. I have three different examples here. This is a sock yarn, a medium weight or worsted yarn, and this is a super bulky yarn. There are a couple other weights in between, but I just wanted to show you these today. One way you can know how thick a yarn is this number right here. It's a 6 if it's hard to see. There are yarn weights from 1 all the way to 6. 6 is the most bulky, the thickest, and 1 is a very fine weight like this sock yarn here. But as we can see here, not all yarn balls will have a number on it. So what do? One is fingering weight. That is the thinnest weight. Fingering, this here says super bulky. And then this one doesn't have any other identifiers other than how much it weighs and how many yards are in this ball, how many yards of yarn. So when we're looking at swapping yarn out in a pattern, we want to get to similar yardage per the weight. 100 grams and 50 grams are probably the most common weights that you will find for a ball of yarn. We're gonna put these aside for a second. This is another medium worsted weight yarn. It's one of my favorites, Wool of the Andes from Knit Picks. And it's a 50-gram ball. Oh, and we can see here there's a 4. I don't know how well you can see that. It's probably super tiny. You'll just have to take my word for it. There's a 4. If we look over here, 50 grams and 110 yards. This is called Cascade Yarns Pacific is the name of the yarn line. Cascade is the brand. And 100 grams. So if we take this up to 100 grams, we know this has 220 yards per 100 grams. This has 213 yards. So those numbers are very, very close. We could swap out these yarns and be completely fine in the finished garment being as we would expect. This fingering weight, this very thin yarn, is 100 grams and 382 versus, what was it, 213. So a lot more yarn in this setup than, or a lot more yardage per 100 grams. So it's the same amount of yarn, it's the same weight, but it's a lot higher yardage. So we know that if it's more yardage for the same weight, that this is a lot thinner. So that's the basic gist of weight, and you'll find that different weights are better, can be better for different things. Like this super bulky, maybe you wouldn't want a sweater out of something super bulky. Maybe you would. Same with the sock yarn. I mean, it's obviously great for socks, but also great for lightweight shawls or lighter weight sweaters. And it just depends on your preference and the pattern that you're using.